while Sarah Boone transitions from babyface victim to the baddest inmate on the yard, seemingly enjoying her new lifestyle. It seems that during trial she was focused on the wrong things. Sarah was still focused on making herself the victim at the expense of the Torres family. While Sarah was sending George to jail for fun and games, George was also taking classes for battered intervention and to help stop substance abuse. It's possible that George was learning that he was the true victim and may have been fed up with Sarah's dangerous games. George was tired and scared of going back to jail, but Sarah was not tired of making her documentation. If George decided to go back to his family that evening, it's possible Sarah snapped. Although she was abusive, Sarah had become very dependent on George and didn't want him to leave her. She was also very jealous. Sarah was used to presenting herself as a timid, baby-voiced victim and needed to present this way during trial. She felt if she could just get that pesky evidence thrown out and dress very demure, then she could convince everyone George was really the bad guy. Ironically, the hole Sarah dug for George ended up being her actual forever home. Let's dive into her new living conditions at her new home. Let's look into exactly why Sarah continually denies breakfast and all the rumors about sliced cheese. Sarah has made new friends and found new fans and fame. But she's also made some enemies as well. Let's look at Sarah's new life in the big house. But first, let's see what all the fuss was about when Sarah wanted to dress like the Wolf of Wall Street.
All right, Ms. Boone, I just got a couple of inquiries of you, ma'am, before release. Are you satisfied with your attorneys so far throughout this trial?
Definitely.
And are you on board with the strategy that they've employed so far in this trial?
Definitely.
All right, thank you very much. We'll be in recess till 2 o'clock. Court's off the record.
Here Sarah is proudly entering court in her personal choice of wardrobe. What do you think? We know Sarah loves pink. She wore those flimsy pink shorts almost every day in Winter Park. Luckily for trial, she decided to wear a bra for Judge Cranick. I must admit I expected more fashion, with all the fuss her legal team made.
Stephanie, we hear there have also been some issues with getting clothing for Boone during the trial. How is that?
Yeah, so as you might remember, the trial did start, jury selection almost started last week before it was delayed midway. And there was a delay there because Sarah Boone can get her clothes. Now, this is important because her attorney doesn't want potential jurors to see her in that jail jumpsuit. They want her to be seen in normal clothes. So today she actually came out with the same outfit and jail slippers, as I mentioned. There's been an issue with getting her clothes. That was one of the big topics that her attorney spoke with the judge today, and they said that they seem to have worked that out.
Sarah takes a look into the court at her enablers, and even takes a quick glimpse of the Torres family. It's sickening to see her so jovial, as the suitcase sits 3 feet away, almost like she's auditioning for a Aaron Brockovich role in a movie. She and her team paraded these thrift store items around the courtroom in hopes of fooling us all. But did it work? Even Judge Cranick noticed her little charade. Let's listen.
Judge, can the parties approach the bench?
As soon as Madam Clerk calls it, we can do that.
Case number 2020-2603, the state of Florida versus Sarah Boone. Parties announce your names for the record, beginning with the state.
Dave Castro on behalf of the state. William J. for the state.
Defense.
James Owens for Sarah Boone.
Tony Henderson for Sarah Boone. Kevin Becker for Sarah Boone.
Ms. Boone, raise your right hand to be sworn. Please do you swear or affirm the testimony you should give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Good morning, ma'am. Can you state your full name and date of birth for the record for me?
Sarah Boone, 10-10-7-7.
All right. Ms. Boone is seated at counsel's table wearing a black jacket and a white multicolored shirt. Looks like some splotching on it. She is in custody. However, she is not wearing any restraints, so we will be standing when our jury panel enters and exits. The parties may approach.
Sarah seems to think she's a part of the legal team, calling shots as if the suit gives her some sort of superpower. Back at the prison, documented inmate reports have read that she even fussed with the guards about how important she is, and she would make sure they would be in big trouble if her wardrobe wasn't correct. Sarah seemed to be under the impression this was the management office at Tealwood Apartments, where she would often control the narrative and get what she wants. Unbeknownst to her, she'd been figured out. This was just a circus and she was the main attraction. What she did to George was unforgivable, torturous behavior, and justice was about to be served. The court gave her just enough rope to hang up all her art in her new cell. Sidebar: Sarah wore this same outfit twice. I guess they ran out of clown suits back at the thrift shop, or she thought this was impressive. But no amount of makeup, bad hairstyles, cringe-worthy acting skills, or a team of clowns would overshadow her heinous actions.
Was this a lovely day or a nightmare?
I know how much vodka was in that bottle. And what's the bottle now?
Kind of to throw it out.
What does that mean?
When we drink.
The bottle's empty. I know how much vodka was in there. Enough for 2 people to have a really good time. And who drank it? I want it to be documented that I'm leaving you, which means that you're getting out. You're getting out.
After the snack request and the glam squad request, reality hit Sarah like a handle of wine. She had been exposed in the worst way, and the Torres family was finally, after 4 years, getting the justice they truly deserved. Let's see how Sarah was going to prepare for the big house, although she didn't like being confined to small spaces.
Court pronounces sentence as follows. Ms. Boone, court sentences you to life in the Department of Corrections, with credit time served that Madam Clerk will provide to you momentarily. There are also court costs and costs of prosecution, which Madam Clerk will give you the totals of.
When you get down there, you'll have 3 phones you'll be able to call.
What, as soon as possible?
Yeah, once you get down there and get booked in, you'll be able to use a phone in the waiting
Well, how
area.
long will that take? Because I need to talk to Brian.
You know, it depends how busy, how quickly they get you through. I would say within the hour. It's a free phone call in the lobby. It's a free phone call.
All I'm doing is bring you there, sign this paper, and you're all done.
She has no clue.
So can I ask you, or whoever it is, those holding cells, the holding cells, am I going to be put in one of those?
I don't know.
Last time I had a panic attack.
Okay.
Let them know that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, you're familiar with the big bay. As long as you go in and you act civil to them, they'll set you in the big bay. And you'll be left there for a
Can you
while.
request that while I'm there?
No, that's not up to us. We don't work at the jail.
As long as like he's saying, is if you don't
If you
act up.
go in and act like this, you'll go in and they'll put you in the big bay. If you go in there screaming and kicking and yelling and
Why would
cursing
I
at
do
people,
that?
I don't know. I'm just letting you know that's what happens. That's how they weed people out. If you go in acting like this,
So I ask for the big bay?
they'll put you there as long as you're acting like this.
Yeah, because the last time I had a major panic attack on those little things.
Let them know.
Yep.
the cuffs.
Go ahead, stand up.
I have not
So
found
what am I
anything.
going to do with my purse? Oh, sorry.
Your purse is going to come, but the cigarettes and stuff can't, so.
I put the lock up too, my bad.
Oh, no, it's all good. Mine are the opposite, so.
What made you all decide to do this?
Made us decide to do this?
Uh-huh.
George is dead.
You guys, I knew this was going to happen.
You did? Okay.
So I came down here willingly.
Yes, absolutely. We were trying to figure out what's going on. We're still trying to figure out what's going on.
Unintentionally.
Well, intentional or not, George is dead. You act like when you say unintentionally, that absolves you from everything.
I need to get, I have my, I don't know if it's able to be or not.
I apologize.
No, no, it's all good.
I have things in my car that I need to.
Okay.
Put your purse like that.
What kind of stuff do you have in your car that you're worried about?
Well, I have my medication.
Okay, they have a pharmacy there, so if there's something that you have to have right away, you'll be seeing a nurse.
It's panic attack stuff.
Well, again, when you get checked in, you're going to be seeing a nurse,
Turn around now.
and that they have a pharmacy there, so they'll be able to take care of any kind of that stuff. That protocol is out of my realm. I don't work down there, so I don't know, but I do know they do have a pharmacy, and that you will be afforded to see somebody. Okay?
Hold on.
I don't think you all understand who I am. I'm afraid.
So when he contacts you 3 days ago, why don't you call the police? Knowing that he's not supposed to be contacting you. Why are you doing that? I would love that.
His whole family despises me. I'm afraid.
That has nothing to do with it.
Yes, it does.
In our last video, we discussed documentation. There was a dispute about if evidence should be thrown out and Sarah's civil rights being violated. Namely, the famous interrogation and the cell phone video of George being tortured by Sarah. Remember, they believe this will help them win the case. These are the most recent documents filed to date for Sarah's appeal by James Owens, in hopes to challenge the decision Judge Cranick made to deny a few motions. And the big one, the sentence of the court on December 2nd. We discussed in detail and watched Sarah and James attempt to deceive the court. However, she just couldn't get around the semantics of drinking and being drunk. Most of us saw the judge deny motions for continuance, motion to suppress statements, motion for new trial, and a motion for downward departure. Sarah did score a few victories. She was able to wear those awful suits, stiff helmet hair, and remove the shackles for her close-up. However, now that reality has set in, and dreams of the bar across the street from her townhome are far removed, Sarah is ready for her final fight. This appeal is her last chance to dance with the dogs, drink vodka, and flee. She severely underestimated the chance that her baby voice charm just wouldn't work on everyone. And while it is true that Sarah has been caught hoarding dozens of slices of cheese, it's very serious and dangerous where Sarah is housed. She is with women who are just as heinous as she is, like Courtney Clenny and Donna Adelson. There's even reports of vicious attacks on females daily, with homemade weapons, and I'm not talking about homemade black eyes. If there is any fights, she won't be able to fake these injuries. There has been reports of abuse against women to no avail. There are reports that the drinking water contains dangerous bacteria, that the female inmates are cooking with bathing and consuming daily. This is a stark reality and consequence for what Sarah did to George. In apartment number 3, there are new tenants in that unit, and the chapter has been closed. But do we have to worry about Sarah being set free on appeal?
I think you all understand who I am, where...
Okay. Well, tell me.
I mean, I've always been a straight-A student. I am an outstanding mother to my son.
Okay.
I excel at everything. I would not do that.
You wouldn't lock somebody in a suitcase?
Well, I didn't, completely lock it. I mean, I opened it with one finger. I left enough in there for him to get out.
Okay.
And I wasn't planning on going upstairs and going to sleep.
Okay. No, it was just the way you said it.
You guys are scaring me.
Why?
Well, we just want you to watch this. This came from your phone. Don't you want to know what's on it?
Yes, please. Is it long? Because I don't know how much I can take.
No.
I don't know how much I can take.
I don't know how to find her.
Do I have to watch this? I continuously throw up. I don't sleep. I don't want to see it, if that's okay.
Well, it's on your phone, and you can either explain it or we take it for what it is.
Yeah.
There was attempts to try to resolve it. If we would have come to terms, I would have filed a notice of appearance. We would have set it for court, set it for hearing, and the case would have been resolved. So we did make attempts like everybody does in every case. Any prosecutor, any criminal defense lawyer, public defender, you have plea negotiations. That's just part of it. So there were attempts to settle it. I was kind of like a mediator. You know, I was kind of like a go-between, because once she became pro se, it's very difficult for the prosecutor to then communicate with the defendant. Actually, the rules say you got to do it on the record. And you can imagine not having somebody to negotiate for you, and she's trying to negotiate with the prosecutor, trying to send her to prison for the rest of her life. So somebody had to do it. I was doing it.
Before release, are you satisfied with your attorney so far throughout this trial? State, anything we need to address?
Not from the state.
Defense? All right, Ms. Boone, I just got a couple of inquiries of you, ma'am, before release. Are you satisfied with your attorney so far throughout this trial?
Definitely.
And are you on board with the strategy that they've employed so far in this trial?
Definitely.
All right, thank you very much. We'll be in recess till 2 o'clock. Court's off the record.
You got to understand, Sarah's been through 8 lawyers, so there's some trust issues. And on both sides, you know, I'm concerned, is she going to try to fire me, or we're going to have problems the same way, as you can imagine. But, you know, I like her, she likes me, we communicate well. I think we're both on the same page. And, you know, I spoke to my family, my wife, my daughter Sarah about it. Sarah's thinking about law school, so I got their blessing. I have, you know, some colleagues that I practice law with, a law group there in Milton. And obviously it's going to take some staff to pull something like this off.
How about that, folks? Okay, the first question I know everyone's asking you, why? Why did you take this case, James?
Well, you know, I watch a lot of YouTube, and I watch a lot of court TV, and I've been following this case just like all the other true crime people do, and you know, kept watching it being delayed and the lawyers being switched, and then saw that the judge got fed up and ruled that she had forfeited her right to a court-appointed counsel. And so that's a rare event. You know, as lawyers, we know that, you know, everybody has a right to a lawyer, a court-appointed lawyer, if you can't afford one. So on a serious charge, a felony, in this case it was a murder, for the judge to revoke that right was a serious decision on his part. I don't disagree. I respect the court's decision, but that left her facing a murder charge without a lawyer, which is unheard of, I think. And so, you know, I watched for a while, and then I saw the ad on your show, and I think that you had said something implying, hey, who's gonna take the case? What lawyer in Florida is gonna pick up the torch, so to speak? And I think you had somebody on, maybe it was a lawyer from the Northeast, and I think I remember that lawyer saying, man, if I was a license in Florida, I'd take the case, you know, under that scenario, because she really needs a lawyer. Everybody needs a lawyer. And so the ad came out, and I sat there and waited for 3 or 4 weeks. I can't remember now how long I waited, but I was thinking that a lawyer out of Orlando would pick up the case. Somebody would think, hey, this is not right. There's no way she's going to get a fair trial representing herself. It's unfortunate. And
well, I think everyone's been checking you out in the last couple of days, and everybody knows you are absolutely legitimate, James. I mean, you have quite a history.
I've been doing it a long time. Doing it a long time. So anyway, she reached out to me, and then a couple of days later, Sarah called me from the jail in Orange County in Orlando, and we talked for a little bit, and I explained to her that I was coming down that Wednesday, but I'd come down early and spend Tuesday talking to her, and she agreed. So I drove down Monday after work. Tuesday morning,
can you describe that meeting without, you know, I know attorney-client communications is off limits, but how would you describe that meeting to someone? Like, was it different than meeting other clients for the first time?
The first meeting?
Yeah.
No, it was a 4-hour meeting. I usually don't meet with clients in the jail for that long, so I gave her a chance to talk and just listened. For a long time, she had a lot to say. Obviously, she's been in jail for 4 years. And, you know, we had a good meeting, just, again, I think she has trust issues because she felt like she did have some good lawyers that were on her case and just withdrew because they would get in some arguments. You know, I talked to her about that, and that was my intent. I'd called the prosecutor and told him I was coming down there to speak with her ahead of time, and he wanted to try to negotiate something that had, you know, some good meetings. So I think
you be ready.
Well, I'm gonna do my best with the time I've got left. That's all I can do. I'm gonna get some help. I've got to get some staff helping me. I've got a couple of lawyers that are buddies of mine that have offered their help. So
I should send that lawyer from the Northeast down to help you. Joseph Krowski is the guy.
Yeah.
We'll let him know that he's the reason that you jumped in the case. He may fly down there to help you. He's up in Boston. It's cold. He may come down and help you.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I've got 2 lawyers that, like I say, I think are going to help me. Are pretty much committed to it. They're friends of mine, and I trust them, and they want to help me. And they realize I thought the case was going to be continued. I respect the judge's decision, but I really thought.
Let me ask you this. Have you spoken to any of the other 8?
Yes. I spoke to Ms. Cashman, who was the last lawyer that had it. I've tried to speak to Mr. Padilla out of Miami. He's the one that had the case initially. He had it for about 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. He did most of the discovery, took most of the depositions. I think they were pretty much ready for trial or getting close, and he withdrew. But I've tried to call him a couple of times. I know he's been in a double homicide case he just got out of, but I never was able to speak with him.
And you're doing this pro bono? I don't think she has much.
No.
What are you getting?
Well, you know, Sarah's got to pay me back one day.
Okay. Okay.
That was the agreement I had. I wanted her to understand that she needs to be self-reliant and she needs to be responsible for fees. I've got a bunch of clients that are paying me, and some of them only pay $50 a month. And but it's important to me. It's important to them, you know, that we have an arrangement to make payments, and that's what I told her.
Do you think?
I feel.
Do you think she needs to tell her story in the courtroom?
Well, Sarah's a unique individual. I don't know. In a criminal case, is the time to tell her whole story. I think if it's necessary, she'll take the stand. We're just going to see how the case plays out. You know, we'll make that decision when the time comes. Of course, she's got a lot to say. She's filed a lot of pleadings, a lot of letters. Some ill-advised.
We've seen them. Trust me.